What's going on, guys? Rider here, and today we're going to be installing an APE manual cam chain tensioner onto our 2014 FZ-09. Now, this process of installation is going to be pretty much the same across all of the FZ-09s. Just make sure you pick up the right part number from APE and you'll be good to go. Now, there are a few tools you're going to need before you get started, so just make sure you have these before you start and it'll make things a lot easier. The first tool you're going to need before you start is a 14mm Allen socket. And not a lot of people have these, so you can pick a little kit up on Amazon for about 15 bucks and you can get one of these in there. You're also going to need the 5mm socket to get the bolt off of there. You can find these usually with the regular Allen key set, but the 14mm is one that you might not have, so you're going to want to make sure you have it before you start. You're also going to need a 19mm socket to crank the engine. Now, these come in most socket sets, so this is something you probably do already have. Also, you're going to need some kind of rod to put tension on the chain guide to make sure that it does not slip a tooth when we open that up and remove the tensioner. So something that you can stick in there. I'll show you that process later, but usually these extensions that go with sockets work pretty well. Just clean it up and stick it in there, it should be good to go. So the first thing we're going to do to prep this is open up our APE manual cam chain tensioner and then just loosen the bolt all the way. You can do it with a 4mm Allen, and you want to pull this bolt all the way out so that we can clear the frame and get it in there. It's pretty easy to do, just twist it all the way out. Alright, now for a safety precautionary, what you can do is open up your left-hand engine case, and you're going to turn your cam chain counterclockwise and line up the timing marks. Now, people say this step is kind of unnecessary, but I like to do it just to be safe and have it lined up already, so it's up to you. You can skip this step if you really don't want to do it, but as a safety note, I'd recommend doing it. It doesn't take that long. This is how you do it. Take your 14mm Allen socket and you're going to stick it here on the left-hand engine side. Crank that open. It might take a little more work to open it up. I had this open earlier. And then just set this cap to the side. And then you're going to take your 5mm Allen and open up this little bolt that is here on the side. This is your window to make sure you can see the notch and line up the timing. Alright, so this is where the 19mm socket is going to come into play when we turn this bolt down in here. What this is going to do is turn our chain so that we can line it up on the timing marks in this hole right here. And this is where you're going to see it. You're going to see a little notch that you're going to want to line up in here. Right there you can see that notch that I have lined up. I lined this up beforehand, but just go ahead and turn your chain counterclockwise. You turn this bolt counterclockwise and keep an eye out for the notch. It's going to be a little bit difficult to turn it. Just put some muscle into it and you'll see this notch line up eventually. And once you have that lined up, your chain should be aligned on the timing marks and you should be safe to proceed. So now that these are already lined up, I'm going to go ahead and put these caps back on. And then we're going to go to the right hand side and start with the actual cam chain tensioner install. Alright guys, so I got this bolt out, but I do want to let you know I did have to end up cutting the Allen key a little bit shorter. It just, it didn't have enough room in there to get this other one out, so you may have to end up cutting your Allen key. It's not too difficult, but we'll help you get that bolt out. So this is our old cam chain tensioner. We're just going to set this aside and go ahead and put the new one in. Now here's our new APE manual cam chain tensioner. I'm actually going to use the old bolts that came from the original automatic cam chain tensioner, and just because they tend to thread better, so I'm going to reuse those bolts into those cams. Alright, so now we have our APE cam chain tensioner screwed in, and I'm not going to lie, it is a pretty difficult task to get these screws in there. They go pretty slow and you don't have much room to work with, so just have patience. You'll get them in there and you'll get them tight. Before we can take our spacer out, keeping tension on that chain, we need to adjust the tension on the manual tensioner a little bit. So you can actually do it with your fingers by just grab onto that screw and twist it right to tighten it back down there. You might need to loosen that nut up. That nut just keeps it stable. It's going to keep it set there when you find your right tension. So tighten it up and kind of keep screwing a little bit. A little bit goes a long way. As you screw that in there, go ahead and feel that chain a little bit. Kind of wiggle that chain until you find tension on there. And then once you have good tension, then you're okay to pull that spacer out. Once you feel that chain get more tight, you want to wiggle it left and right. You'll feel it get tight, and then you should be good to go to pull that off. So it's feeling pretty tight for me. I feel comfortable enough to where I can pull this out now, and it should be good to go. Alright, so now we have pretty good tension on this chain. And just one thing to keep in note when you're trying to find a good amount of tension, looser is going to be better than tighter, because you already know what it sounds like when you have a loose tension, so you can kind of hear if it's going to be too loose when you start the bike. But if it's too tight, you can run into some more problems like stretching the chain and whatnot. You don't want to do that. You'll usually whine if it's too tight. So kind of find a good balance and then go on the slightly looser end when you're going to adjust later on, so that you don't have it too tight, because you can always tighten it more if it's a little too loose. Alright guys, that's pretty much it. That's how you change out to a new APE cam chain tensioner. Not too difficult, just make sure you follow the steps, and the next thing you're going to want to do is adjust it so that it's not whining or ticking, and the only way to do that is go out and get out and ride and then adjust accordingly. Just make sure it doesn't loosen up, and you should be good to go. That should fix your ticking problems of the original automatic cam chain tensioner on these FZ-09. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment down below and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. But I hope you found this video helpful, guys, and ride safe.